So, as I have been a bit under the weather, I've been continuously thinking about teams that stand out to me when I start thinking about the 2023 season. And one team in particular continues to rise to the top of my thought process, and that's the Texas Longhorns. Because this is a big year for Steve Sarkisian and company, and today I kind of want to talk about this. The Texas Longhorns are in a really interesting position going into 2023, and it's something I think we need to break down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe the Texas Longhorns will win the Big 12 on their way out? Let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And Texas is such an intriguing team going into 2023. So much so that here recently, Urban Meyer talked about how talented of a roster this is for the Longhorns, going as far as to say that you could pretty much well stack Texas's roster with any other college football team in the nation, and Texas has the talent to get it done. And this is something we talked about lightly on the stream a week ago. If I had to pick right now who would win the Big 12, to me the answer would be the Texas Longhorns for several different reasons. First and foremost, continuity. You have continuity at key positions. We can talk about the offensive line, an area that plagued the Texas Longhorns for years until Kyle Flood and Steve Sarkisian got there, really started addressing offensive line recruiting, and now the Texas Longhorns have one of the best offensive line units in the nation. I can't wait to see what they do this year. It was so much fun to watch them play last year. I'm really excited to see how they continue to grow and how Kyle Flood continues to develop that unit. But outside of that, you have continuity at the wide receiver position. You have continuity at the quarterback position. You have continuity at the tight end position. You do not have continuity at the running back position, where not only do you lose Bijan Robinson, who I thought was one of the most gifted backs we've seen in a while. It was so much fun watching him play every week. I've said this a lot. There are certain running backs that you have got to be really aware of where they are whenever they get the ball. And then there's Bijan, where the second he steps on the football field, defenses have to start pooling resources to account for where Bijan is. Even if he's just used as a distraction. He is that good. He is that dangerous. But on top of losing Bijan, you lose Roschon, and Roschon may have been one of the most underrated players in the draft, in my opinion. But fear not, Texas fans, you do have some things that make you feel comfortable about moving forward with your running back room. First and foremost, several blue-chip running backs, including a 5-star running back y'all just got out of the recruiting class, which we're going to talk about a little bit here in a bit. And secondly, the continuity we just talked about. You have continuity at the quarterback position, meaning Quinn Ewers is now accustomed to life as a college football player. It's year 2 under the Steve Sarkisian system, year 2 with a lot of these weapons, and we expect to see some growth there. That's going to alleviate some pressure off the running backs, because it's not a position where the running backs have to shoulder a lot of the burden to alleviate pressure off of Quinn or the offensive line, which is going to help those running backs. So when you look at the running back room, it is going to be a lot of fun seeing how it shakes up, but if you're a Texas fan, you have faith, especially with some of the names in that room. 5-star Baxter, Blue Chip Blue. Then you have Jonathan Brooks, who lit it up on the high school football scene in the state of Texas. Super intrigued to see that room. But the side of the football I'm most interested in for the Longhorns is the defensive side of the football. Because when I look at the Texas Longhorns, and when you realize Steve Sarkisian is the head coach, you pretty much well assume the offense is going to get it figured out. Steve Sarkisian is someone whose opening scripts to games are typically super effective. I mean, go back and watch, and a lot of the times his opening scripts are hyper effective. My biggest question on the offensive side of the ball isn't about the talent for Texas. It more revolves around the ability to make decisions on the fly, the ability to make adjustments, something that has hurt Steve Sarkisian time and time again in the past. But now this is a situation where he's accustomed to this team. He has the talent at every different level. Now it's time for those adjustments to start coming through, because the opportunities were there. But let's continue on to the defensive side of the ball, because like I said, I'm not worried about Texas's offense. My only real question for Texas's offense revolves around making adjustments during the course of a game, especially after the second half. For the Texas defense, there's a lot to be intrigued about. This is a defense that really took major strides forward last year, and I'm interested to see if they can continue to do so. Losing Overshone is a hit. This was a guy that was fantastic for the Texas Longhorns, but they went out and got 5-star inside linebacker Anthony Hill, and we said earlier we would kind of talk about recruiting. The Texas Longhorns had a phenomenal recruiting period once again under Steve Sarkisian, which is showing the Longhorns faithful they're going to be able to recruit good classes. And I know someone's going to say it, but Ty, that was never Texas's issue, for them to recruit good classes. Yes, but the classes they were recruiting before were empty calories. Imagine you just get done with a workout. You need a meal with substance, and instead you just choose a piece of bread. That was the Texas recruiting classes. Is it food? Sure. It can be great bread. That's not the question here. You could go to the best bakery in the world and get that loaf of bread, and it is a great loaf of bread. But is it substantial? No, it's not. It was empty calories. Now when we look at the Texas Longhorns recruiting style, that's a meal. You got your meat, you got your potatoes, you got your greens, you got your everything you could want, because the recruiting is comprehensive. I talk about this time and time again. There has been an absolute change in recruiting philosophy under this new coaching staff, and I think it's going to be conducive to long-term success for the Longhorns, especially with the move to the SEC on the horizon. But because of that, when we look at the defense, they got some big pieces of need now. The defensive line is an area I'm going to be watching closely, especially those outside linebacker positions, because of how PK utilizes them in his defense. But one thing that had to be encouraging to see if you're a Texas fan is the versatility of Anthony Hill. And I know it was a spring game, right? There's still a lot to go from now until the season, but he flew off the screen when you watch the Texas spring game. Anthony Hill looked the part. He looked like a junior in college. He looks ready. But aside from just watching him physically go out there and look the part, the ability he had to play inside, outside, whatever he needed to do and be effective at it, that's what was so impressive for me to see. So seeing him be used as a chess piece for that defense, I can't wait to watch it all come to fruition. But this is a big year for this Texas defense. PK is now in year 3, and things are really starting to come together. But if they're going to really get to where they want to go, this is the year where it all has to come together. So at the beginning of this, I talked about how on the live, we were talking about some predictions. And if you've been around the channel for a while, you'll know I usually don't do a whole lot of predictions, especially this far off, because so much can change between now and the time fall camps rolls around. Injuries can occur, position battles can pop up. It's football. We know how much of an inexact science this is. However, I went on ahead and let it be known that as we sit here and talk right now, if you were to ask me, Ty, who wins the Big 12? I think it's the Texas Longhorns. I think they are ready to go when we look at this year from every level of this team. If there are questions, they've done something in recruiting to answer them, and I find far more answers with the Longhorns than I find questions. And I think the Big 12 is going to be interesting this year. And we can look at Texas's rival, the Oklahoma Sooners, where they're coming off of a down year, but I think we can expect them to get better. Oklahoma State has got a lot of question marks. You want to talk about a team in the Big 12 where I've got question marks, Oklahoma State, that's the team. TCU has got to replace a lot. Kansas State no longer has Deuce Vaughn, but Kansas State's going to be a disciplined team. This is one thing we can all come to expect, but Deuce Vaughn was a major piece of that offense. They lost some pieces along that team now that's going to be interesting to see how they replace it. So the Big 12 is a league that contains some questions. Make no mistake, I believe that once it gets here, the Big 12 will, like in so many other years, cannibalize itself. But I think the Texas Longhorns are poised to rise to the top and be able to ride it out. Super interested in hearing from all of you, but there is no mistake, this could be a make-or-break year for Steve Sarkisian. And yes, I said a make-or-break year, because we just talked about how much talent this Texas roster has. Urban Meyer pointed to the fact where not only is this a talented roster, it's a complete roster, and I always bring your attention to the way this staff is recruited, where it's no more empty calories, these are full meals. I'm super interested to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments and let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.